Hello and welcome to the Coaching State. Today's video is in a series of videos called The Subtle Art of Coaching. My name is Tony Husted. I'm a Master Certified Coach. I'm the author of a Level 1 and Level 2 coaching certification, and I am the Director of Training for Shipley Coaching. This conversation, coaching the who, not just the what, I believe is one of the most important conversations coaches should be having. And therefore, should be one of the most important things we're focused on inside of coaching. I believe this is what makes coaching such a transformative tool. And I use that term very distinctly there because I think it is what we should be doing as coaches. We are doing transformational coaching, not just transactional coaching. And you might be wondering, well, what exactly does that mean? And it's easy to make the distinction and not quite so easy to make the shift. So think about it this way. We can coach who the client is, the whole person, or we can coach the project. We can coach their own personal development, their growth, their journey, even if they are coming asking for coaching directly on, hey, I need to accomplish this task. I need to accomplish this project. I need to move forward in this area of my life. We should always be coaching the who behind the scenes to support the actual what and how. So when I say coach the who, not the what, when I say what, it's the what and the how that I'm talking about that most coaches rush to. I've coached I've mentored, pardon me, I've done over 1,000 mentor sessions in my career inside of 2 coaching organizations and outside with many students of many coaching organizations. And one of the most common things I see is coaches rushing to, what have you done already? What can you do next? What needs to come first? What are the priorities? ABC, time management, and all of the kind of traditional accountabilities, putting it in your calendar, starting reminders, a focus on very much on the task, but not the person carrying out the task. Now, if you think about it for a moment, think about these types of situations. I once coached somebody who was in a career position, or they contacted me about career coaching. My apologies there. And as he was describing his journey, he said to me, I've had 5 jobs in 5 years. And he went on to tell me that in year 1, the first job, this is why he had to leave. In year 2, this is why he had to leave the second job. Year 3, this is why he had to leave, on and on. My very first thought was simply, well, what's the common denominator here? He'd had 5 different jobs, all loosely related to his degree and his areas of interest. But what was common? Well, we had a family friend, a very close family friend from when I was a younger man, and she had been married 7 times. And I always wondered when I was young, it's like, wow, what's going on there? And then later, as I learned about coaching and human development and all the things that I've learned to get where I am today, I realized, well, she's the same. She kept moving from husband to husband to husband, looking for something externally to make her happy, to get fulfillment, etc. And as I look back on my interactions with her over my life, I very much realized that she never changed along that journey. She just kept looking externally. And so in the same way, when we coach a client, the client may be stuck. They may be procrastinating on something. They may be way behind on something. They want to maybe make changes in one area of their life. And if we just coach at that level, the what, when, where, and with whom, and what actions that the client is going to be taking, the challenge is as soon as we step away at the end of the coaching relationship, that next project is probably going to fall back into the same cycle because the client hasn't changed. The client hasn't shifted. They haven't transformed themselves into something bigger, broader, bolder, better, etc. Now, notice that the English language isn't even really that good at this conversation of the who, the identity, the essence, the inner being. And this is a big one. I'm going to be using this term being versus doing and having. Today, we're talking about the being conversation. I don't want to just coach somebody to have more leadership skills. I want to coach them to be a better leader, to have better coaching skills so that they can lead better. But if we just take and throw leadership skills at people, when we just throw that out and they don't change, the way in which they deliver it starts to become incongruent. It doesn't fit, so it often doesn't stick. We could maybe move from state to state to state, trying to find a place that's going to make us happy. But what really needs to happen? First, we need to find our happiness. When we are happy, then we can find the happiness around us. Or another example that I've run across and seen many times is the person says, "Oh, well, once I'm married, then I'll be happy. Once I'm making $100,000 a year, then I'll be content. Once I'm this, then this." And we need to flip that on its head. We need to start with the person and work down. So what is the who? What do we mean when we say the who? Well, we've mentioned it's the being. Who are you being? Who are you becoming? What kind of person are you? It's that, again, inner essence. And what makes up that inner essence? Well, I think for me, the big ones, it's multiple pieces. One of it is the values. What's really important to the person? What's fulfilling, rewarding, captivating, motivating? What drives them? Those are the conversations of the heart. That's a big piece of who we are. It's what's in our heart. It's what's in our deeper motivation conversation. We talk about 4 conversations in one of our coaching models, what we call the leadership engagement model. We've got the want, the way, the will, and the win. What does the client want? What is the way they're going to get it? What's the plan? The willpower conversation is the third of those W's. How are you going to stick with it? How are you going to keep it? How are you going to grow from there? How are you going to continue to move forward? How are you going to create and maintain momentum? This willpower conversation is primarily connected to people's values, what's deeply important to them. It's also about their truth. It's about their voice. It's about their yeses and their nos. It's what they accept and what they reject. It's about what they express and where they don't express themselves. When we coach at the choice level, the boundary level, the speaking of people's true words, when people can be authentic with who they are, a lot of that is expressed through the voice. People want to be heard. We want to express ourselves freely and openly. We want to think independently and be able to express our ideas in that way. And when people shut that down, then people shut down not just their truth, but they shut down in their value system as well. And then they don't contribute. So it's of the heart. It's of the truth. It also is then something abstract within us. It's that true self. When you peel everything else away, when you peel away the name, the title, where you're from, how old you are, the accomplishments, the acronyms, the degrees, when you peel all of those things away, the roles especially, when you peel those all away, what's left? Who are you truly? Who are you being? And again, the English language isn't great at this. Not all cultures are great at this. So I mentioned earlier that we need to slow down, take time. Notice when our client says something in that being language. I'll need to be XYZ. Focus in on that. Notice that they'll almost always slow down. It's an interesting thing about this whole piece of what we mean when we're talking about the who, the values, the truth, that inner being. And then last but not least, the vision. What is their vision for the future? What are they wanting to create? What are they wanting to contribute? What's the legacy that they want to create, leave behind? What's the lasting mark they want to leave on this world? When you bring those four pieces together, that starts to hit at who they are being. So, how do we do this? How do we do this in a coaching session? Well, first off, we want to maintain presence. ICF core competency number 5 is maintaining presence. What are we attentive to? What are we focused on? Are we focused on the person in front of us? Are we focused on their truth, their hearts? Are we focused on their essence, their true being, their true full capacity? Some people might describe that as what they're called for, who they were created to be, why they exist. Some people might even call it mission. And as I mentioned before, also vision. Those could be used interchangeably, depending on the organization or the person or the definition there. So am I really present with the person? Am I listening to everything they're saying? That's who coaching. That's transformational coaching. And I'm inquiring about those items. Or am I on the transactional side? Give me the details. Tell me all about it. What are all the details? What do you mean by that? Ooh, give me more details on this. And what's the time frames? Who's involved? Who can help you? All of these very standard stock questions, which have a place, but I think that the place for them in coaching is much smaller than what many coaches give them. We focus on the wrong things. We're focused on the details. We're focused on taking all these detailed notes about time frames and who, what, when, and where, and logistics and organizational and time management, all of those conversations that I've already mentioned. We focus on all the small little details. And what I find when coaches coach that way, what I find is that it ends up being about 90% is what the client already knows, what the client is already thinking about, and often what the client has already done. There's no discovery. The discovery, when you think about this for a moment, when you've been coaching a client and they've had an aha moment, a truly aha moment, what was the crux of the aha? What was the shift? Most often when I hear true ahas, and even as a client of coaching, when I've had my deepest aha moments, the biggest openings, it's almost always of my heart, of my truth, of my beingness, or my purpose. It's something shifts there. Rarely is it, oh my gosh, I need to get up half an hour earlier on Tuesday so I can get to the gym. That's not an epiphany. That's not an aha. So when we maintain presence, I want to focus on my client and their big picture. Now, certainly, as we work through a session and we work through the body of a session, there is a time and place. We do need to get some action steps. We need accountability. We do need the small picture. We do need to prioritize. And what I have found is if you can make that aha moment of some form, you can draw out that transformational conversation. The transactional conversation becomes very easy. It becomes very quick. And often I even, as I'm teaching coaching, I encourage my student coaches, the new coaches, to think about it this way. If you take care of the person, the details will take care of themselves. I trust my client to go figure out how to do it, what, when, and where, and with whom to do it. They can figure that out on themselves. Having the internal ability to make the internal transformation ourselves, that's the tough one. That's often a long, prolonged journey into some self-transformational journey. Years of yoga, meditation, spiritual retreats, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a challenging conversation. But as a coach, we can do that in a single session by paying attention and maintaining our full presence. I bring my presence to my clients. I bring it to them, not the project. Now, core competency number 6 is active listening. What are we listening for? Are we listening for all the small details? Are we listening for the little tiny things all in there that we tell me more? Ooh, describe that for me. Explain that to me. Again, about the who, what, when, and where. Or are we listening for that moment that the client goes, oh, what I really want? And we respond as a coach of, what is it that you really want? Why is that really important? What does that give you? Please notice my tone and tempo change there. These are conversations that take longer than, when are you going to get this done by? It takes a different tone. It takes a different presence. It takes a different listening. Are we listening to the skill set that they bring? Are we listening to them when they tell us what's really important? Are we listening to their emphasis? Are we listening to their energy? Are we listening to their pauses? Are we listening for that being language? Are we listening to that commitment when they say yes? Are we listening? Are we hearing them when they shrink back? And then we can ask that question to draw that out. What would it take for you to step into that fully? What would it take for you to become that kind of person? How does this fit into the purpose of your life? How does this fit into your bigger goals? Notice those are slower questions. And then give people time, give your client time to ponder that. Slow everything down for this conversation. Coaching the who is a slower conversation. Again, coaches, I hear coaches racing, running, trying to get as much accomplished, trying to get as many contingency plans, alternative plans, steps, details, milestones, getting all of that in place. And at the end, we neglect the who. The who is the coaching session. When we can land our client and they start to focus in on who they want to be, what kind of leader they want to be, what kind of parent they want to be, what kind of impact they want to have on the world, we start to bring out something that changes the whole game. These 4 pieces change all the rest of it. When someone has a spiritual conversion, for example, that's a who conversation. They have a spiritual transformation. It changes nearly everything about them. There's a deep shift. That's what we're looking for in the coaching. Now, many students of mine have said, oh, Tony, that's so hard. I will say it's not the easy conversation. If it was the easy conversation, everybody would be doing it. The easy conversation is the task orientation. It's the reorganization. It's the consultant who comes in to a group or to a team in this case, let's say. They come in and they're like, let's reorganize things. Let's reassign things. But the consultant never takes time to find out who the team is, why the team does what it does. Now, that's not an absolute. I'm speaking a little bit in hyperbole. There are great consultants out there who do this, but they are few and far between. Most are just about the bottom line, getting things done, getting past the obstacle, making the transition, etc. We need to really come in and find out who is our client and then work on the task. Develop the client's deep inner sense of okayness, then work on the project. Find those things. Are you listening? When you're active listening, are you listening to the client's inner world or their outer world? The inner world is the much more important conversation. One of my favorite ways to find out, to begin to tune in to my client's inner world is the why question. Now, there are a lot of coaching schools out there that tell you completely flatly, avoid the why question. I'm going to give you this. There's 2 types of why questions. There's this type of why question. Why did you do that? That's what we refer to as a downward why question. It usually leads clients to justify, well, I did it because. There's always a because. We can always find a because when somebody gives us a downward tonality with a why question. There is an entirely different type of why that I'm describing here. And this is what we call an upward why. Why is that important to you? What would that do for you that's even deeper? Why this? Notice that it's very similar words, but the tonality, the tempo, the energy, that connection of me and my client, me connecting to who they are, to their being fully present. I bring my true self to the conversation with them. I open myself to allow them to open themselves. Why is that important? How does that fit into the bigger picture of your life? How question, but it points people to those four areas. It points them up to the deeper purpose, the deeper meaning, the legacy, the identity. Who are you going to need to become? What needs to change about you? What will you need to embrace? What will you need to let go of? Those are some of my favorite who or being questions that we can explore. So I'm going to really encourage you as you go into your next coaching session, ask yourself, who am I coaching? And commit to coaching that person and then coaching the project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, please jump down into the comments. Leave your question there. I'll be sure to answer it. If you've got suggestions for future videos for this series, please be sure to leave those in the comments as well. Leave a like if you love this video and would like to see more of them. Hit that subscribe button. I'll look forward to seeing you in future videos on the subtle art of coaching. Thank you for your time.